I've been making book videos for 10 years now, which means I've grown a rather large physical TBR. Recently, I went through a bookshelf purge and only kept the books that I'm the most excited to read. I am convinced that my next favorite book is waiting for me somewhere on my shelves. I've set myself a challenge to read my entire physical TBR in 1 year. We are starting with 250 books, and by the end, I hope to be down to 0. Hey friends, welcome back to my channel and episode 4 of TBR Tackle, my series where I am reading every single book left on my physical TBR. If you want to get caught up to where we are now, I will link the playlist down below and you can watch the previous episodes. I had posted a video of every book that I have on my physical TBR. I went through each and every one of them and I asked in the comments of that video for you guys to comment the ones that you wanted me to read, and you guys did. There were a lot of comments on that video. So this episode of TBR Tackle, I'm going to be choosing the books that you guys picked for me. I printed out all of the comments, cut them up, and I will be selecting comments and reading those books. So before we can start picking out books, we need to update my stats because I have read and DNF'd a few things from the shelf since the last episode. So I'll start with my 2 DNFs. I DNF'd Stardust by Neil Gaiman and The God of Endings by Jacqueline Holland. This one I read like a good amount of. This one I DNF'd pretty quickly. This was actually my book club book for Patreon and it put me in the hugest reading slump. I just was bored, I wasn't into it, and I will be DNFing that. So since these 2 are not technically read, they're DNF'd, I will not be adding them to the number of books I've read. I will just be subtracting them from the total books that I have left. And then the book that I did actually read and finish is Evocation. I read this in my recent vlog where I couldn't stop reading until I got a 5-star book. This one was not a 5-star book, unfortunately. So with these, here are my updated numbers of the books that I've read and the books that I have left. I'm gonna go move these to the other shelf and we can get started selecting the books that I will be reading in this video. We are going to pick my first book from the comments. I was planning to put them all into this cute little jar. However, I vastly underestimated how many comments there were, and instead I had to put them all inside my pumpkin because this is the only thing I had that was big enough. So we have a pumpkin pie sized amount of comments. I think there's like 400 in here, and yes, it did take me a very long time to cut them all out. Could I have come up with a more efficient way to do this? Yes, but I was committed to the little pieces of paper. We're gonna pick the first one. Oh my god, I'm nervous. This one, I'm scared. Okay, let's see. Oh my god, perfect! So this is from Ice Dragon 248. 2 out of 3 of my favorite books so far this year are Perfume and Picture of Dorian Gray. That is perfect. Oh my god, I feel like those are both very good fall books, like the gothic, historical, dark vibe. They're also both classics. I already had Perfume on my TBR for fall, so I am planning to read it in like the next month or 2. So I think I will use this as an opportunity to read The Picture of Dorian Gray, which I've always wanted to read. So thank you very much, Ice Dragon, for the push to read The Picture of Dorian Gray. I'm gonna be honest, my knowledge of Dorian Gray is so small. All I know about it is that it's about a man who wishes to have like eternal youth and be beautiful forever, and there's a portrait of him that's made that has something to do with how he retains his immortality. Also, Oscar Wilde, very gay. So I've heard that the book is also very gay. I will determine that, but I am very excited. I had a challenge for myself this whole year to read more classics, and I'm kind of failing at it majorly, but this will get me one step closer to my goal. I am listening to the audiobook of Dorian Gray, but I also downloaded the ebook so that I could follow along and highlight things, because as much as I would actually like to physically read this copy, it's just too pretty for me to highlight. I would like to leave it looking pretty, but I'm listening to the audiobook that's narrated by Ben Barnes, and let me just say, he should narrate every single audiobook in existence. I've only read the first chapter. I'm already obsessed. I'm already loving it. I think it's been clear from my past couple of reading vlogs that I've been in a big slump. Never did I think a classic would be the option to get me out of this slump, but I think it may be. I think it may be. I already love it. Everything about it. The writing is so beautiful and layered. That might be one of the reasons why it's like sucking me in so much, because I feel like with my whole reading slump, it's not that I haven't been enjoying what I've been reading. My attention span has just been so bad. And so I keep reading books and then like 5 seconds later I'll put it down even if I'm enjoying it. But I think what's capturing my attention with this book is that I'm enjoying it and it's just complex enough with the writing that I do feel like I have to pay a little bit more attention. So it's holding my attention more. It is already so gay. I started out, I was like, oh, I'm gonna highlight all the gay quotes. Then I was just highlighting everything. Like everything was just a highlight. So I stopped that very quickly. We meet Basil, who is an artist, a painter, and he has found a new muse in Dorian Gray, who is this beautiful man. He's been painting him. He says quite possibly the gayest things about Dorian Gray. When our eyes met, I felt that I was growing pale. A curious sensation of terror came over me. I knew that I had come face to face with someone whose mere personality was so fascinating that if I allowed it to do so, it would absorb my whole nature, my whole soul, my very art itself. Excuse me? Then we also meet Basil's friend Henry, Lord Henry, who is kind of like, I don't know, he's a questionable character at this point, and he really wants to meet Dorian Gray. And the first time that he meets Dorian, he starts remarking on youth, the fleetingness of youth, and it really starts turning the cogs, not the clogs, it starts turning the cogs in Dorian's mind of like, oh my god, I'm not gonna be hot forever? What are you talking about? So Dorian now becomes kind of obsessed with preserving his youth. And that's where I'm at so far. I'm loving it. It's amazing. It's amazing. I love it so far. So I'm gonna keep listening and highlighting. We'll see how far I get today. Honestly, it's not that long of a book. I think I could power through it, but I don't really want to. I kind of want to savor it a little bit. I finished the picture of Dorian Gray. Also, I'm kind of matching the book today. That was not intentional. I loved this. I loved this. Listen, I am not like a lover of classics. I'm also not a classics hater. I just haven't read outside of school, on my own, free will. I haven't read that many of like ones that I'm choosing because I'm interested. And there's a lot of times that I will read like a classic book that is so like revered and beloved, and I'll kind of be like, that's it? Like, that's it? This is not one of those books. This is one of those books that I'm like, I get it. I understand, I get it, and I'm on the train. I'm on the train of the Dorian Gray lovers. I'm gonna be honest, sometimes I feel like I'm not like smart enough to review classics, because I'm like, I don't really have anything intelligent to say that probably hasn't already been said. I mean, I've already gone on and on and on about the writing at this point. The writing was stunning, beautiful. I loved the ending. The ending was perfect. Like the imagery. I also found it to be very accessible, even though like the writing was complex and beautiful, it was still easy enough to read. This felt complex and beautiful enough that like it makes you think, but not too difficult to where you're like pulling your hair out, like what the hell is he talking about? I definitely feel like this is one of those books that I would like to read again at some point, like in the future. I think I could get even more out of it from a second read, but on a first read, I loved it. I think I'm giving it 4.5 stars. I want to give it 5 stars, but there's just something in me that's like, it's not fully a 5-star book. I can't explain why. I don't know if this was intentional on Oscar Wilde's part, but I actually found the book very funny at times. Like there were some times that I was like, Dorian Gray is just a silly boy. He's just a silly boy. Like there's this one part where he falls head over heels in love with this actress in a play, and he's like, oh my god, she's the perfect woman. I'm gonna marry her. She's gonna be my wife. I proposed, we're gonna get married, I love her, I'm obsessed. And so he brings his friends to her play to show them that she is like the greatest woman in the world. Her performance of that play that his friends were at was not her best, you know, her acting was bad. And he immediately just got the ick and was like, actually, About that, proposal thing. Yeah, I think it's a no for me now. He got the original ick. Dorian Gray was the inventor of the ick. He said, ugh, you performed bad in that play one night? Absolutely not. You guys need to let me know now if I need to watch the movie, because I said I was listening to the audiobook that was narrated by Ben Barnes, and I know that Ben Barnes plays Dorian Gray in one version of the movie. You guys will have to let me know if that is the good adaptation to watch or if there's something else. Now, we consult the pumpkin again. This one? Okay, we have, oh my god, another one I'm so excited about. Okay, this is from Kitty Zero, who said, I vote for Can't Spell Treason Without T, which is a cozy fantasy book that I've been dying to read, so I'm so excited for this one. Okay, so I am like halfway into Can't Spell Treason Without T right now. I'm really enjoying it. So basically the plot is that these two girls, we start the book, they're already in a relationship. One of them works as like one of the guards for the queen of this like kingdom, who's kind of like very cruel and mean, and the other one is a mage who like works as the queen's sorceress, but they both dream of escaping this life and running off somewhere and opening a bookshop slash tea shop together. So at the very beginning of the book, Raina, who is one of the guards, gets attacked in an assassination plot against the queen, and she gets injured, and she's finally like, you know what, I've had it, I quit. So they run off, find this little town that's kind of like out of the queen's reach, and they're hiding there, and they get in touch with all of the locals and decide to open up this little bookshop, and it's very cute so far. It is very similar to Legends and Lattes. I mean, you guys know I love Legends and Lattes. I feel like this one has a little bit more like meat to it. There's a little bit more stakes because they are on the run from this like cruel queen who doesn't really let people quit. And I do really like that it's already an established relationship, so that I love them together as a couple. My only complaint right now is that I do feel like sometimes I get confused about whose point of view I'm in and like who is who, because I do feel like both of them have a very similar voice, so I often forget which one is which. But that is the only like issue that I'm having right now. I am really enjoying it. I finally finished Can't Spell Treason Without T. I really enjoyed this. I think I'm gonna give it 4 stars. I definitely would recommend this if you're looking for a cozy fantasy that just has like a little bit more of a plot to it. Like, there are things going down, there's dragons, there's a lot more to it than just like this couple opening up a little book and tea shop. My only issue with it is that it is a little long. Like, it is 440 pages, which for me personally, when it comes to this kind of fantasy, that's long. I would have preferred it to be shorter. So I got to a certain point where I was kind of like, you know, let's start wrapping this up. But I will definitely read the sequel. The next book, I believe, has to do with pirates, which I'm very intrigued by, excited by. I also have another book from this author on my TBR, which I don't even really know that I realized they were the same author, but I'm excited to read that one now because that one I don't think is cozy. So I'd be curious to read that one and see kind of what the difference is. I do think I liked this better than some of the recent cozy fantasy that I have been reading, because a lot of cozy fantasy has come out lately. Legends and Lattes really kicked off like a trend that I'm here for, but they're not all great. I would say this one is definitely great. So we need to pick my next book. What will the pumpkin give us this time? Let's find out. This one. Oh my god, yay! All right, this is from Live With Books. I read Chlorine at the beginning of the year and really loved it. It was 5 stars for me. So I will be reading Chlorine next, which I am super excited about. I have been wanting to read this honestly since the beginning of the year. I was originally going to read this for my booktubers favorites vlog at the beginning of the year, but I ended up not getting to it because I was already reading so many books for that video, and that was one of the ones that I cut. But I have just heard great things about it. It's supposed to be like a weird literary horror sapphic kind of book, and pretty much everyone who I know who's read it has really loved it. So thank you very much, Liv. I'm excited to read this. I have been reading Chlorine. I am 159 pages into it, so I'm over halfway. I think I'm gonna be reading this book in like one sitting, but oh my god, I love it. I love it so far. Honestly, I was loving it from literally page 1. The first sentence sucked me in so much. It says, "You are not here of your own free will. You are here because I desired you first. I lured you to me using my intentional charms, my ethereal beauty, my siren song, my six-pack, my tail with scales embroidered in flesh." Excuse me? That is so beautiful. My tail with scales embroidered in flesh. So this is about a girl named Ren who her whole life she's loved swimming. It is her #1 passion. All she thinks about, all she does is swimming. She feels like she is meant to exist in the water. She has a relationship with another girl who is on her swim team, and every couple of chapters there's a letter from her friend Kathy to her, written after something has happened. It's kind of hinting to the fact that Ren eventually turns into a mermaid, and Kathy has been leaving all of these letters on the beach near the water for Ren to eventually find. I think a deeper message that's going on in this book though is themes of the like trials and tribulations that women go through within our own bodies, the pain that we experience that just is kind of like the nature of being a woman. There was a whole chapter that I found so relatable that was all about just how much having your period sucks. When Ren gets her period for the first time, she says, "My period continued an inevitable cycle, yet every month I was somehow surprised by the violent pain. It was as if I refused to believe my body, something I'd trusted for years, would repeatedly betray me. My stomach ate itself from the inside, a revelry I'd been dragged to, a feast I was forced to join, though I was not hungry." Ugh, I died and regenerated every month. How else could I define the experience? The reasonable explanation was death. I decided when my body was wheeled into a morgue, the coroner would declare I died of being a woman, which was far better than dying of being a man. I love the descriptions in this book. The writing is so like vivid and beautiful and kind of like in your face a little bit. There's times when things are being described and I'm like, that's really uncomfortable, but it like forces you to confront that. I am just loving this. Like, I can't put it down. So I'm gonna go keep reading and finish the last bit of this book, but I'm feeling very, very good about this book right now, which I'm excited by because I've heard such good things about this. I had a feeling I was going to love. I'm glad that I am. I finished Chlorine and I really, really loved it. I loved the ending. I do think I'm gonna give it 4 stars, but it's like a very high 4-star. Yeah, I just thought the writing was amazing. I loved the message behind it about like transformation and being your true self, being free regardless of how that affects other people, the depictions of women's bodies, being queer. There's just so much to love about it. And the whole book, you're like teased of like what is happening, her becoming a mermaid, and finally like seeing the transformation is crazy. And again, like very uncomfortable. The writing in here is beautiful, like graphic in a way that is at times uncomfortable to read. This is also a debut and I am so impressed. I definitely will read whatever Jade Song writes next. It actually really reminded me of another debut, The Eyes Are the Best Part. These books very different in like plots, but I do think that there is a lot of overlap when it comes to the themes, and the main characters actually like kind of reminded me of each other. So I feel like these are kind of like a good book pairing. If you like one of these, I would recommend reading the other. Both like really solid horror debuts following like young teen girls developing and growing, coming of age, and having a very odd obsession. This one being mermaids, this one being eyeballs. But I'm glad that I finally read this and loved it, and I will be adding this to my collection of weird literary books that I love and adore. It is time to pick our next book. Every time I do this, I feel like I'm like serving up a pie. I'm like, let's pick. Let's do one from the bottom. This one. Oh my god. I'm scared. Oh my god, okay. This is from Shay Larish, don't know if I'm saying that correctly, who said, For the Wolf and A Deal with the Elf King are two of my favorite romances of all time. I'd love for you to read either of those. Okay, For the Wolf or A Deal with the Elf King. I think between the two of those, I want to read For the Wolf. It's been on my TBR for so long. Also, it does kind of feel like fall vibes. Although I think A Deal with the Elf King could also be fall vibes. I don't know. I don't know much about that book. For the Wolf, I do know is kind of Red Riding Hood inspired, where a girl like gets sacrificed to the wolf monster in the woods. So that would be what I'm choosing. Thank you so much, Shay, if that's her name. So far, the pumpkin is blessing me with fall books. We'd love to see it. Thank you. Thank you to the pumpkin. I wanted to give you guys a little update on my reading of For the Wolf. I have like 100 pages left, and despite how that may seem in this video, I've actually been reading this book for a very long time. And it's not because I'm not enjoying it. Ugh, I have such complicated feelings about this book right now. I think because the book is not bad, the writing is not bad, nothing about it is bad or something that I'm disliking. I've just read this before to the point where I actually started to like wonder if I have read this before. I was like, did I read this and I'm just completely like I erased it from my memory or something? But no, it's just because I've read so many other books that are exactly like it. So I actually was incorrect when I first said what this book is about. I thought it was based on Little Red Riding Hood. I mean, the cover made me think that. The fact that the main character's name is Red made me think that. The fact that she goes into the woods to find a wolf. It's actually a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and it's like pretty clear to Beauty and the Beast, which if I had known that, I might have been a little bit less excited because I've just read so many Beauty and the Beast retellings at this point, and two of those, I'll go grab them, are by my favorite authors. Like these two are both Beauty and the Beast retellings written by all-time favorite authors of mine, plus there's like at least 10, if not more, other Beauty and the Beast retellings or like inspired by, that this is not feeling any special or unique or different, and I just feel like I've read it before, and that's kind of making me not like excited by it or want to like pick it up. I'm like, okay, yeah, I know everything that's happening. I probably can predict everything that's gonna happen at the end. And I think if it was a bad book and like I was hating it, I would be like more excited to pick it up because I'd be like, yeah, I can roast it. But it's not bad. I just think I'm at the point where I've read so many Beauty and the Beast books that in order for me to like one, it has to be doing something so unique and so different, or be gay. Be unique or be gay. When you're not either, I'm not enjoying. So, I don't know. It's not that I don't recommend the book or like would tell people not to read it. I think if you love Beauty and the Beast retellings, or if you haven't read that many, you'll probably enjoy it. I think that if this is like the first Beauty and the Beast book that I've ever picked up, I would be live, laugh, loving, having a grand old time. I think Beauty and the Beast is so overdone at this point, and I wish that this had been Little Red Riding Hood, because I think I read far less Little Red Riding Hood retellings than I have Beauty and the Beast ones. So I'm gonna go finish the last like 100 pages, but I don't really feel like my feelings are at this point are gonna change unless there's like some crazy wild twist at the end where everyone turns out to be gay. That's the only thing that will save it for me is if everyone turns out to be gay at the end. Okay, I think I'm gonna give it 3 stars. Yeah, I don't know. This is one that I'm very conflicted about because like I said, it's not bad. I just think I'm at the point where I'm over this kind of story because I've read it so many times, and this just feels like a million other books that I've read. But I'm not mad at it, and I get why people love it and why people recommend it to me or wanted me to read it. I understand. I get it. I'm not mad at it. It's not for me. Not for me. I did enjoy the writing, like the actual writing style, so I would read something else by Hannah Witten. I know she has her other series, like the Foxglove something, which I have no idea what that series is about. You guys can let me know if you think that I would like it. So I'm actually going to pick out 2 more books because I'm gonna be leaving for like 2 weeks and I need to take some books with me. I'm gonna be filming a completely other video while I'm gone, but I figured I would take 2 books from the pumpkin. So let's pick out 2 prompts and see what are the last 2 books that I will be reading in this video. Let's do this one and this one. First one is from Pistachio Gold. The only book I've read and can highly recommend is On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous. It's so beautiful, which I'm very excited to read that one. That one I believe is an epistolary novel, which I love. You guys know I love that. I believe it's about a son who's writing a letter to his mother, and I've heard it's sad. All right, the other one is, oh my God, this one's from Erica. Okay, she said, Disability Visibility was one of my favorite books of last year. She also said, I know you're in your soft romance era, but I'm so desperate for your thoughts on Mercy and Marriage for One. I'm not ready to read either of those, Erica. So sorry. I'm not ready for the angsty romance. I'm gonna go with Disability Visibility. That's one you said was your favorite book of last year, and I have really been wanting to read that. That is a nonfiction book that's a collection of essays all about disabilities, and I have heard that it's really great. I don't read nonfiction that often, so this is a great push that I need. I actually think it's the last nonfiction book that I have on my physical TBR, so that's perfect. Okay, book updates, reading updates. I am on my way to the airport to pick somebody up, but I finished Disability Visibility. I don't read a lot of nonfiction that is like this, but I really enjoyed it. This is a collection of essays all from people who have disabilities, different types of disabilities, all about their experiences, and I feel like it ranges on a wide array of topics. One of my favorites was I'm Tired of Chasing a Cure by Liz Moore. That's the one that I think I personally related to the most because it's about having a chronic illness, an illness that has no cure, and coming to terms with having a lifelong illness that will likely never be cured. I do feel like this is the type of collection that is more for people who don't have a disability to learn about them, to learn about that experience. So I don't know how much that I personally got out of it, but I did enjoy it. And I know that Alice Wong has another collection that I think is Disability Intimacy. So now I am halfway into On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong, and I am loving this. The writing is incredible. I feel like that's the theme of this whole video, is just books with amazing writing. This is a book that really feels like a memoir. It feels like you're reading about a real person, and I wouldn't be surprised if Ocean Vuong pulled from his own life, because a lot of it feels so just true. Like the voice of the main character just feels like a real person instead of a character in a book. But it is written as a letter to the main character's mom. It's very poetic in style, which I love. So I'm really enjoying that. I'm going to try to finish it when I'm waiting at the airport, and then I will come back with my final update. I finished On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous, and I really enjoyed it. I think the writing was great. I think I'm gonna give it 4 stars. I'm not like obsessed with it as everyone else is. I just think it's not generally like my kind of book that I'm like, oh my God, incredible, amazing, 5 stars. But it was good. I'm glad that I have finally read it. I think I would read another book by Ocean Vuong. I would read another one. I love the style of like writing in a letter and also being very poetic. There was a bunch of quotes that I thought were beautiful, and it was also very sad, and I'm just not the biggest sad book girly. That's not my journey. I'm just a girl. I'm just a girl who likes a fun, cozy time, but it was good. It was good. 4 stars. So here's all the books I read for this episode. I read 6, and I really enjoyed all of them. They were great. So here's my updated numbers for TBR Tackle. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, and check out my Patreon where I post tons of exclusive content. I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!